Hello and welcome back to the Cuvelier Report. With March Madness in full swing, I thought I would discuss some key points regarding on whether or not American college athletes should be paid. In particular, men's basketball. It has become an increasingly debated topic due to recently large media coverage on two different lawsuits, one of which was filed against the University of North Carolina. But I'll go into more detail on that later on. To start, I'm just going to be introducing some statistics to help my case. While I discuss these facts, enjoy these highlights from March Madness last year. Mark Edelman 2014 points out that the NCAA and some of the larger Division I programs make ridiculously large amounts of money. For example, the University of Alabama athletic revenue was $143.3 million in 2014, which is more than all of the NHL teams combined. So where does all this money go? Well, according to the University of Alabama, they just spent $9 million on renovating its football facility to now include pertinent things like arcade games, pool tables, along with several 9-meter hot tubs for their football training center. Another important statistic that adds justification to paying college players is to look at how much time a week they practice. Peter Jacobs, 2015, had statistics to show that on average, a Division I men's basketball player in season has athletic obligations equating to 39.2 hours. After this, the player has to find time to eat as well as do his obligations as a student. I know what you're thinking. The players are getting a free education. That's their pay. But if you suffer a career-ending injury, often you will not be offered a scholarship anymore. On top of that, the question is how good of an education do you actually receive? Well, to come back to the lawsuit against the University of North Carolina, two women's basketball players feel as though it was subpar and are suing the school, stating that UNC steered student-athletes toward programs and courses that lacked rigor so as to free up as much time as possible for the athletic commitments while ensuring continued eligibility under the NCAA rules. Finally, let's have a look at the only argument against paying college athletes that make any real sense. That is that by playing college basketball, you also earn a form of marketing towards the NBA. Well, the NCAA website states that less than 2% go pro. I understand there would have to be a cap that schools could allocate for stipends per player per year, but even small amounts such as $150 a month would go a long way with helping to ensure that the players had enough to eat. But this can all be looked at through the conflict theory. Conflict theory, by definition, is a Marxist theory that argues that certain social classes have differing amounts of wealth, which makes for more powerful groups of people, who in turn use that power to exploit the lower class of people. This can be clearly seen in my earlier explained examples. You have a group of more powerful people. In this case, the NCAA or the D1 universe is exploiting a group of people with less wealth. In this case, the student athletes. As Eitzen, 1988, states that the insight of the conflict theorists within the Marxist tradition are especially instructive in aiding our understanding of the deviance in sport. He later goes on to explain that through the conflict theory you can look at commodification of sports. Commodification is a transformation of goods and services, ideas, and in this case people into the form of commodity. In the case of college basketball, it would be that the players turn into the form of commodity and the NCAA and the schools turn into the owner of said commodity. Almost all of sports today have become a form of commodification for the greed of the large companies, not just limited to the NCAA or universities. It also includes leagues such as the NFL or MLB. What once was a love for the game has almost all gone but extinct. Stewart, 1987, states that the effort to attract large audience degrades the quality of play in a variety of ways. For example, several basketball parks have moved the fences in closer to home plate in order to increase the home run output. The commodification needs to end, and it needs to become more of a love for the game type of situation. But the NCAA and colleges won't recognize that there is a problem. One student who plays basketball for the University of Connecticut, named Shabazz Napier, went on record and said, "There's hungry nights where I'm not able to eat." An even more interesting statistic comes from Sherman 2014. He says that UConn has the worst graduation rate of any men's basketball team, which is around 8%. It again all comes down to an overly capitalistic society where one party is not willing to share any of its wealth. In very recent news, as of March 17th, the NCAA was nice enough to let us know via Twitter that the NCAA provides free Wi-Fi to student athletes at all of teams' hotels during the D1's men's basketball championship. Well, that's phenomenal. So after a player gets done with all his athletic duties, they should have just enough time to get their schoolwork done that many students cannot do without any other commitments. Someday the NCAA will realize that they're being overly capitalistic and are not helping anyone by exploiting players. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be allowed to make a profit. All I'm saying is that they should give back a little more to the people who they owe all their success to. As always, it's been a pleasure, and tune in next week to hear me talk about player safety in the NFL. Thanks.